Hey, how are you today? I'm just gonna give it a couple moments for some people to join me live here before I begin. It's been a bit of time since I've actually done a Facebook Live by myself. I've been really enjoying collaborating on my Elite Women Live series. So this one has been buzzing through me. I've been literally feeling this masterclass, this transmission wanting to move through me all day. And I've been getting the message, for like probably the last week that this needs to happen. Hi, Karen. How are you? If you're joining, say hello. Please stay engaged. I would love to know who's here, who's watching. Please participate. Share your comments, ask questions. I make these Facebook Lives. Everything I do on Facebook is a way of me being in service. So when I come on here, it's not merely for promotion. It's not merely for, shits and giggles, so to speak. It's because I have something important to share and something valuable to add to your life, to your business, to your mission, to your path. And I only respond and share from a place of alignment. This has been something that has been ongoing. So from soul alignment, because that's what I teach, that's what I know, and that's why this is so important for me. So hi Ajith, nice to have you here. And Pete, hi Ali. So maybe just even type where are you from right now? Where are you tuning in from? What part of the world are you in? And just say hello, just so that I know that I'm not by myself. Zach, hey soul sister. Zach, so good to have you here. Hi, yeah. Just keep saying hello. We'll give it another minute or so for people just to join in, and then I'll begin this masterclass. So in the meantime, if you're tuning in, you are chilling out on this this Monday afternoon, well, here in Pacific time, or wherever you are in the world, if you're just kind of hanging out at home, maybe you want to grab a notebook and a pen if you want to take some notes. There's always information that I'm sharing. There's always wisdom, some sort of higher guidance message that will come through during my broadcasts. So if you're interested in writing some of those things down, I would say go do that now. Go to the bathroom, go grab a glass of wine or tea or coffee or water for yourself, and then we're going to dive in. And I'm not sure how long this transmission / masterclass will be, but it will be what it will be. And I'm going to just allow what wants to move through me today, with already the idea of a theme that's been very strongly coming up for me to share, to come through. Hi, Jay Kale Donner. Thanks for joining. Hi, Jeffrey. And yes, stars of another dimension like you. Yes, you are, darling. You are. So this is a vulnerable one for me, actually, to share today. I actually have been feeling a little bit anxious and nervous leading up to doing this today. My higher guidance was just like, you have to do this broadcast today. It has to happen. Stop delaying it and follow this guidance. And so I noticed myself earlier, hi Erin, trying to avoid it by doing a bunch of other work, because Mondays here at headquarters are all about catching up on business tasks and emails and contracts and preparing content. And sometimes they're connection call days with other amazing entrepreneurs and leaders. So today I was doing all this work, and then I was preparing for this broadcast. And you'll find out why it's a bit of a vulnerable and nervous share for me as we sort of dive in. But I want to talk today, for those of you who are joining me, about the ascension and the up-leveling process. And it's been really up in conversation. I don't know if you're familiar with this concept. Hi, Olga. Thanks for joining. Hi, Erin. Heart right back to you, sister. But we talk a lot about on this path of spirituality and personal development and business development, conscious leadership, and what have you, all these labels. We talk a lot about up-leveling. And I think that there's a certain sort of mental understanding around what up-leveling means and what specifically that's supposed to look like. No problem, Zach. Sounds good. Watch the replay. Yes, if you got to catch the replay, come back later. Lots of love to you too, sister. And hi, James. Thanks for joining in. If you're just joining in, I'm just getting started. I'm just waiting for a few more people to hop on, and then we'll begin. We'll begin the masterclass. Hi, Raul. Grab a pen, grab a notebook if you want to take some notes during this live transmission and broadcast. Of course, this is all for you. I'm sharing value. It's also for me because it's a part of me giving back and being in service to you on this Monday. So I hope that what I'm about to share is going to be of tremendous value. So if you're just joining, say hello, please ask questions, make comments. This really helps me in this process when I have people who are active with me on these broadcasts. It's not just me by myself talking to the camera and my ring light. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to get started, and I already started, mentioning to those of you who've been hanging in here with me the last few minutes that I'm going to be talking about and doing a masterclass around up-leveling and the ascension process. And in that, I'm going to tie in some of my story for you and what's been going on for me behind the scenes that's been really pushing me into this next evolution of my mission and what I'm here to do on this planet. Hi, Paula. Hey, so good to have you. Paula's one of my sisters from Savvy Cafe. We used to be in a pop group together, and we used to sing. So, up-leveling. If you're participating right now, what does up-leveling mean to you? What does ascension mean to you? What have you learned? What have you taught? Maybe this is a new concept for you. As I was saying a few minutes ago, for those of us on the ascension process, the path of enlightenment and spirituality and personal growth, these words get thrown around a lot. And I want to spend some time today describing and helping you to understand what this process is all about and how to identify how you're going through the up-leveling process. Because I think that there's a lot of misconceptions in this work and what this process means. And if you're not quite certain what it is, and if you're going through it and you have some other belief or idea of what it is, it can be really daunting, and it can be a process that you may be resisting, which might actually be stopping more flow from happening in your life, more synchronicities, and you gaining a greater connection to your God self, your divine self, which is everything that I teach. So for those of you joining, hi, Tini, Mark, so good to have you here. Olga. Yes, thank you. Great. Yeah, we all have our own experiences. So I completely am with you, Olga, on your process and what you're going through. And if you're listening and you're not into spirituality or New Age, I think that you'll still get something from this, because what I find is that if you're in a process of change and transformation, and most of us are, that's the thing, like most of us are on a path of transformation. Some of us are more active in it, and others are a little bit more passive. And so when you're in a process of transformation or up-leveling or ascension or however you want to describe it, we go through various evolutions. So the path of being a human being is not straight and narrow. If you haven't figured that out by now, well, here's me bursting the bubble of thinking that life is just this straight and narrow path that is just linear, and we're going along, and life doesn't happen, for us, or it's happening to us. So this is a common misconception that we have, that we're going to choose a certain path, we're going to go down it, and no change or transformation is going to happen on that. And for some of you, there is a path where you're choosing that, and it doesn't look like a lot's happening. And I'm going to tell you a little bit why that may be today. Hi, Medilena. Thanks for joining, honey. It's so good to have you here. So the path of ascension and up-leveling, upgrading, is more a path like this. It's not linear. There's this path that's going up on this scale. And while we're going up on this path, it doesn't really look that way because there really is no end result. So as we're going up, there's no end result here. We're just evolving. We're just growing. We're ascending upwards. And during this, time when we're going through this evolution, especially as we're going through a big shift in consciousness right now on the planet, we're going to have experiences where we go through what I call in the up-leveling process a birth or a rebirth and a death process. Hey Sabrina, thanks for joining. So when we're going on this ascension or this up-leveling, what we typically define as an up-leveling is we are allowing, we are opening, we are receiving, we are desiring, we are creating to have more experiences and evolutions and processes and experiences that feel or maybe more in alignment to the God self, to the divine part of ourselves. So for some people, this may look like I'm desiring to cultivate a business or conscious business where I'm serving more people. I'm creating more impact in the world through my message. For healers, this may be I want to heal more people on the planet. Therefore, I want to be, opening my practice to invite more clients in. For other people, it might be like I am ready to leave a job that I'm not happy with. I want to be doing something that is more enjoyable, more in alignment with myself. For other people, it might be cultivating more abundance and prosperity, or having greater health and well-being and vitality, or accessing higher levels of consciousness. The list is endless. And it has a lot to do with our own inner desires. So what starts to happen as we go on this path of up-leveling is we begin to experience what I like to call like the shamanic death, or these death processes. So it starts to look like the things that we are calling in aren't happening. There's like this delay. And all of a sudden, all kinds of shit starts to happen in our lives. Things start to fall apart. The things that we've been doing, or the things we've been attracting, or the people, the relationships, the experiences we've been having start to go through a shift. Sometimes it's smaller shifts, sometimes it's bigger shifts. Sometimes they're little things that start to transform in our realities, and sometimes they're monumental, life-shaking shifts where everything that we have known to be true about our lives and ourselves and the experiences we're having start to look like they're falling apart and falling away. And in essence, they are. Because as you up-level, the parts, the identities, the experiences, the choices you've been making at the current level you've been at cannot get to the next level of where you're going. So if you are cultivating greater joy, then the parts of you that are not in alignment to that particular vibration or consciousness are going to start to come to the surface. They're going to come to the surface to be released, to be acknowledged, to be experienced, so that you can start to cultivate greater joy, or the next version of joy in your life. Now, the problem with human beings as we go through this up-leveling process is our minds tend to get attached that as we call new things in, as we become more aligned to who we are, the path is just going to be easy and simple. There's not going to be any letting go. There's not going to be any unknown. There's not going to be this process where we're feeling unclear, when we're feeling uncertain. And this is all bullshit, because we're not here just to be positive Pollyannas all the time. That's not the experience we're here to have. So what got you to where you are right in this moment in your life is certainly not going to get you to where you're going next. And you've got to remember that. That might be a really good point if you're taking some notes right now in this masterclass to write that down. I say this with my clients all the time. Whatever got you to where you are today is not going to be what's going to get you to where you're going and what you're calling in. So however you've been showing up in your life so far to this moment, you're going to have to show up very differently in this next version of who you're becoming, or the next things that you're calling in your life. And that's why we go through sometimes this really hard, challenging, experience of being in a death process. Now, when I say death and rebirth, I'm not actually talking about the physical checking out of the soul, leaving the physical form and going on to its next wherever it goes, okay? I'm not talking about that. Hello to all of you who are joining. Please introduce yourself, say hello. Thank you for being here. I'm just starting to really get into this. So say hello, introduce where you're from, ask questions, make comments. It's all welcome. I'm here to support you and add value to your day. So when I'm talking about death and rebirth, I'm not talking about the actual physical birthing of a baby, okay, like when we come into this world. And I'm not talking about the physical checking out. Through the series of our lives, we go through milestones or chapters where one chapter ends in our life, in our journey, and a new one begins. Now, I'm sure that there's plenty of times where you've seen that happen. Some of these rites of initiation and milestones can be when we get married, for example, an ending of our single life, and we're entering into married life. We lose a loved one and we enter into our new chapter of our life without that loved one. We leave a job behind and we enter into a new phase of our life where we're experiencing something new. We finish school. We are now officially an adult. I mean, the list could go on and on. And sometimes in these processes, they can be really hard because we sit in what is called the death process. So the death process is basically letting go, surrendering, and allowing the parts of your identity and the known experiences you've been having to die off. So it literally feels like we are at times, especially if you're really in touch with your emotions and you're in your body, it actually physically feels like a death, that we're grieving. We're grieving our life as we've known it. We're grieving our parts of our identity that we have been clinging to and thinking we are. We are ending the path of choices that we've been making in search for this next path we're here to take, the next emergence of ourselves. So there is this uncomfortable period where we are dying and letting off parts of our identity and our experiences as a human being so that we can step into the next evolution and version of who we're here to be. That's why I come back to the statement, what got you where you are is not going to get you to where you're going. You have to have a completion. There has to be an ending. There has to be a death for a rebirth cycle to come through. The rebirth is the process where there's clarity, where there's expansion, where there are synchronicities, where you have the idea that this new version of you, whatever it is that you're choosing in that next evolution of your life, is coming through. So it could be those things that you're calling in or something even better that starts to show up. But in order for that to happen, a few things need to happen in this up-leveling process. You have to be willing to let go and to allow the parts of yourself that aren't serving you, that aren't ready to go to that next evolution and can't because it's not in the same resonance, it's not in the same vibration, it's not in the same level of consciousness, they need to go. Now the mind is very clever because it's so well designed to hold on and cling to what it knows to be true. Even if you know in your heart and your whole soul, your entire being, that you need to let go of something, that something's not serving you anymore, whatever that might be, to go to the next level, the mind wants to cling on to something because it wants to stay in the known. Our minds are designed, the ego especially, is designed to protect us. It's designed to be finding solutions to problems. So if we're stepping into an unknown place within our lives and within ourselves where we don't quite have the full picture or vision or clarity of where we're going, and we feel like we're in this death process and we're letting all these identities and parts of ourselves go, the mind by design wants to cling on and hold on to what it knows. And it can create resistance. So this is a great question, Regina, because I just noticed that as it popped up. And she's saying, what is the best way to begin to realign with your true calling? Well, this is the process that we're going through. First and foremost, you have to understand that if you're calling something new in, you may be required to take a leap of faith. And that leap of faith may mean that whatever you're calling in next may not be clear. And you have to sit in the death process of what we call the void. The void in esoteric language or New Age spirituality is often referred to as the womb of creation. It is where nothing exists, where there's complete vastness. It's empty, and also in that emptiness is where everything and every possibility exists. So imagine for a moment, I love using this metaphor with a lot of clients, that when you're on this process of up-leveling, you're trying to get to that next evolution of your life, you're trying to call in the new things, trying to find your calling in life, your purpose, next job, your business, you're upgrading, you're expanding. Well, you've got all this new energy coming in. You've got all these new desires and all this new information coming in and energy, okay? Well, imagine that being like you've just gone out on an amazing shopping spree, okay? You've just gone shopping, you've bought a whole new wardrobe, and you're bringing this wardrobe home, and you look at your closet, and your closet is stuffed to the brim, okay? It's stuffed to the brim with all these old clothes. There's absolutely no room to put this new wardrobe in there. So what do you need to do? You need to go through a process of purging, of letting go, of releasing, of surrendering. You've got to go through your closet and you've got to start emptying out all the old clothes, all the old things that have been sitting and accumulating in your closet so that you can put these new clothes in your closet. So our lives, as simple of a metaphor as that may be, or analogy that may be, our lives are very similar. We want to hold on to all the stuff that we know. We want to hold on to all that stuff that's stuck in our closet. And we also want to put this new stuff in, but there's no room for that. So the death process and going into the void is literally sitting in the unknown, which the mind is frightened of. It can't handle it. It doesn't know what to do. Now, we've all been there. The mind will create all kinds of distractions and stories and fear and worry and panic. Our nervous systems go all over the place. We go in fight or flight or freeze, depending on what it is that we're experiencing, right? So sometimes we go through little pieces of like a death process and we're releasing, and sometimes we go through monumental experiences. Now, each of them are the same in this process. We have to be willing to let go and acknowledge that there's a change that's coming, that transformation is becoming available. And then we have to be willing to sit and be in the unknown. So that is where there's like a dip in this process of up-leveling. We dip below that line and we're in this valley, this depth, this void, this vastness of unknown and uncertainty, and sometimes we're not feeling clear. We're not clear on what is next. All we know is that we've stated something, we've created an intention, we've called something new in, and we don't know where we're going next. So we don't know what might be next. It might not be available for us. And I'm sensing that as we're going through this rapid time of transformation and consciousness right now on the planet, that what's happening for human beings is we're being required more and more and more, to create in the present moment, not planning months and years down the road, because timelines are shifting so dramatically right now. We're creating moment to moment, and the other part of this is that we are being required to learn how to deeply trust, have full faith in our divine plan from our God self, and we are being asked to learn how to surrender and be in that void. We cannot be constantly in the mind creating our lives. We are meant to create and align to our soul, to our soul's plan, to our higher self's plan. I'm going to come to your questions and comments in just a moment. So this is where it becomes scary for us, and this is where most of us actually think that nothing's happening. So when we're in the void, when we're in the process of up-leveling, we may very well be up-leveling, we may very well be getting to the next level of where we want to go, of that expansion, of feeling, completely in a flow with our higher self and our purpose and our mission. But what happens is the mind starts to get involved for most of us, myself included. And it starts to become doubtful. All the fear starts to come up, and we start to think nothing's happening. This isn't working. So we stop surrendering, and we start getting into the process of taking action through fear and through desperation. We cling to what we know instead of actually having full faith in knowing that there is something happening in the void. And here's the thing. When we're in the death process, there's so much going on behind the scenes that the more confused you actually are at times, the more that's going on in this process. So it's about becoming fully at peace and surrendered to allowing this process to happen. Because the more that you can surrender to the death cycle, the more you can surrender into the unknown, into that void, into the womb of creation, if you resonate with that language, the faster you evolve through this process and you get to where you're going next. The more you cling, the more you resist, the more you avoid going through this process, the more you get worried and you react out of fear and desperation, the longer you're going to be in this process of what most people feel or notice to be as confused. Confusion is just a sign that the clarity is there. It's already existing in your field. It's already existing within you. But the more that you feel confused and you try to fight your way out of it, you create resistance. You create a block from allowing the clarity to come in what has to happen next. Because sometimes in that state of the void or in the death process, we are required to take inspired action. We can be actively surrendered. Doesn't mean that we just put our feet up and we meditate all day and do nothing. Maybe that is a part of the process, but that might not be exactly what's it. So it requires you to listen and be still and be quiet. So some of you have been saying meditation. Absolutely. Meditation is key. Having solo time in these processes is key, because it is a part of this evolution, is a part of the up-leveling. The up-leveling process doesn't just mean that you call something in and then through meditation and visualization and being positive, that very thing is just going to land in our laps. It doesn't often happen that way. And if it does, it's not always going to be that way. We have to be willing to let go of our lives and the experiences in our lives and relationships and all of the things that we, have known to be true and known in order to go into the next process of the known. And in between that, in that gap, is the unknown. And that's a big part of the up-leveling process. So it's not enough just to say, I want more money, or I want more of this, or I want to experience more of that. In the gap, in the void, is where new possibilities and new experiences and the new version of ourselves is coming together, because we're actually having the trust and the full faith that our soul has a divine plan for us. Because when we react out of our minds, when we're in our heads, basically what we're trying to do is try to be in control of our entire experience. And how well does that work for us when we're trying to control our lives? The truth is, as I've been on this path, God, for so long, and I've gone through, and I continue to go through this initiation of surrendering and letting go of control, the more I'm seeing this is that we don't have any control over our lives. We have the ability to control how we respond to situations, but we don't have control over most of the things that are taking place day to day. And it really requires us to form a new relationship to what being surrendered, being, in full alignment to our soul is requiring us to do. And so it's going to require that we get comfortable being uncomfortable, and we get comfortable being in the unknown. And this is not easy. It's really hard. It is one of the most challenging and difficult processes we face as human beings, especially those of you who have come here in this incarnation and you have made the choice to be a light worker or warrior of the light, to create new waves of consciousness and leadership on the planet, new archetypes in business and for success and money. You are here as a healer, as a teacher of transformation. You are going to actually be put through this before other people who maybe are not on this path just yet or on the precipice of going through it. You've got to go through the initiatory process first. And let me tell you, it's not enough just to say, oh, I know what it's like to surrender and trust and let go. It's something that you're going to be required to go through endlessly. Your whole life is going to be a series of deaths and rebirths. Deaths and rebirths. Because when you get to the place of your rebirth, and you're feeling this expansion, you can experience yourself as this new version of yourself that you maybe are living and you're cultivating all of the things that you've been calling in for maybe months or years or weeks, whatever it might be, you're going to master what it means to be in that level with yourself. And then you're going to be required to go through the death cycle again, through the letting go and the surrendering. And so let me be clear, surrender doesn't just mean I do nothing. Sometimes it does. So when you become aligned to your soul, you get to know this part of you so intricately well, and you become so vibrationally aligned to this, you start to receive the next steps. You start to receive the information, the clarity, what has to unfold for you next. And if you're required to take action, you will know that you're required to take action. And if you're required to be and do nothing and sometimes sit in your shit and feel your pain or have absolutely no clarity and feel completely confused, then that is a part of your process. Now, true to my name, I wrote a post about this last week when I revealed this next iteration of what I'm doing in my mission. My name means, Vanessa means butterfly, and butterfly means transformation. And part of the butterfly's process, if you're not familiar with this, is that it starts off as this caterpillar, and then it goes into the state of metamorphosis where it basically turns into a chrysalis. I think that's what the name of it is, but it goes into this like sludgy process in the cocoon. And it's in that process where the caterpillar, which is not the butterfly yet, okay, is actually complete mush. It is nothing. If you were to look at it in that process, you'd think, what the hell is that? There's no way. If you didn't understand the process and the metamorphosis of a butterfly, caterpillar to butterfly, you'd look at that and be like, there's nothing happening there. There's nothing going on in this process. It's just mush. But in that process of mush, of nothingness, there's so much going on, because a butterfly is going to emerge in due time. The next version of what this caterpillar is here to become is a butterfly. And it goes out into the world and experiences the world in a different way. And this, my friends, is exactly what we go through. We go through this metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly numerous times in our lives, over and over again. And it's in that void where we think nothing's happening, where it looks like God doesn't have our back, that the universe isn't supporting us, that we're going to be in this place forever, trapped in this. I mean, most of us are so afraid to surrender because we think that if we surrender into whatever it is that we're afraid of, or we're fearing, or that we're worrying about, that we're going to be stuck there forever. But this is where it requires you in your up-leveling process to have so much more blind faith and trust that something beautiful is emerging on the other side of that. And it may be what you've been working toward, it may not. But something is happening, and it is going to be more aligned with your God self, with your divine self and your soul than what you've previously been in. That's the process of our evolution as human beings on this planet. And it's really beautiful when you can have the perspective and the understanding of this. So if you're in this process right now, and I've been in it, I'm in this active place of surrender right now. And I've been through this numerous times. As many of you, I can see as I'm doing this transmission, I can see many of you can understand, and you've been through this. It is so beautiful and so necessary. You can't avoid it. So if this is new for you, my invitation, my encouragement is to start to really formulate a connection to yourself. Start to formulate a connection to your soul, to your body. Start to recognize that it may be a path of awakening that is presenting itself to you. And oftentimes when we go through a spiritual awakening, everything, all hell's breaking loose, right? How many of you have been through dark nights of the soul where it feels like you're in this deep, dark, shadowy place for months, weeks? I mean, I was in it for a couple years. You know, I was literally so many identities and parts of myself that I had been, experiencing were dying off in order for me to be able to do this type of teaching, to be this type of teacher. And it's amazing to see what's been happening as I've gone through this. So if you're in it, know that A, you're not alone, and B, it's a necessary path of your up-leveling. You know, a lot of spiritual teachings that we've been told about over the years are actually becoming obsolete and are actually outdated. And so anything that you're maybe reading about around this positive stuff all the time and being positive and this, you know, I'm going to visualize and think about it and then it's just going to show up in my reality, a lot of it is bullshit. And it doesn't work anymore. And there are parts of it that are true and may still be true, but we are evolving at such a quickened rate right now, and we're actually going to be experiencing more and more death and rebirth cycles a lot faster because our evolution is speeding up. It's speeding up. It's speeding up. There's a quickening that's happening around this as consciousness is shifting into another density, another frequency. So we may not have as long periods as we may desire to be in this birth and this harvest, as I like to call it. You know, the harvest is where everything is fruitful and blossoming and everything feels amazing. Like we may be required to experience that, and then we're back in the void. We're back in that death cycle. We're back in the surrendering and the letting go and the unknown. So the more that you can master this, and I say master not because like, oh, I got this, I know what it is, but like you get comfortable with it, you anticipate that it's going to happen and it's going to come, and you know how to handle and respond to these points and these cycles in your life, the easier it may be for you to get through it. And actually not even just ease, but like you can start to see the beauty in it. You can start to see why it's so important for you and that it's not just life taking a big shit on you, as we tend to think, you know, because we get our asses kicked in those moments. So it's like God is in there, the divine is in there with you. You just may not see it or recognize it as God, but it may actually require you to completely shift your definition of what the divine and God means to you in order for you to feel a lot more comfortable in this process. Because it's very easy. And maybe some of you can really relate to this because I went through this earlier this year. And a lot of my clients and my sisters know that I went through this process. Most of us have this like one-way mirrored relationship with the divine. And my coach and I were talking about this earlier this year. And it's really easy to feel close to God, to source, to creator, to our souls, the divine, however, the universe, whatever label works for you. It doesn't matter to me what label works. But for me, I identify it as God, okay? It's so easy to have a really outstandingly loving, joyous connection to God when things are going our way, when we're in the harvest, when we're in the expansion, when there's so many amazing synchronicities taking place in our lives, when we have more money, when, you know, we have all that love in our relationships, when our businesses are thriving, when things just simply go our way, right? It's so much easier to feel like God has our back when we're going through that, in this up-leveling, in this upgrading process. And when we're in the death process, where it doesn't look like anything's happening, when it looks like we're unsupported, when we're in the unknown, it's so much easier for us to like turn our backs to God and say, you're not there. Why are you letting all of this shit fall apart in my life? Why are things so hard? Why is my life so challenging? Why is it that I don't have any money and that I'm losing this and that's falling apart and you took this person away from me and this, all these things that I've known about my life? We tend to have this one-way mirrored relationship with the divine. And the invitation for us in those moments is, can you see that God is in the everything and in the harvest and in the up-leveled version of yourself? And can you also see when you are crumbling and when you are falling that God is in there with you? That sometimes the most magical elements of your life are coming together, the most incredible possibilities that you can't even see because our minds just don't have the ability to conceive and understand that is taking place in that sludge, just like the butterfly. Because that's exactly what's happening. You cannot pick and choose when you love God. It doesn't work that way. And God, my friends, is inside of you. So you can't just turn away from the God self when things don't look like they're going your way. It is about allowing that part of you to be in the everything you're experiencing. Because right now on this planet, we are still experiencing duality. We're experiencing light and we're experiencing dark. And we experience those elements within ourselves as we are experiencing it in public. We're seeing all this darkness and all this shadow coming out. Well, it's also inside of us. And so God is in all of this. And it's helping us to evolve. When we go through those dark times, when we go through the death cycle, it is about the up-leveling. It is in support of us getting to where we need to be. But the more that we can surrender our preferences in that, the easier the ride becomes. So one thing to remember when you're in the void, when you're in that process of the unknown and the death as you upgrade, it's super, super important not to get attached to how a result or outcome may be. And that's another thing that we trip on as human beings. We attach ourselves to how we think it should look at the end of that path, what it's going to turn out to be. And when things don't look like it's turning out that way, again, we go into the state of feeling unsupported, and that God or the universe, the goddess, the divine isn't there for us. So the more you can allow and let this process unfold for you, and you can trust and you can stay connected, because that's one of the things that is so hard to do when things don't look like they're progressing and evolving. We tend to think that we tend to abandon ourselves, and we tend to distract. And we tend to do the things that make us feel known. And sometimes they're just habits and patterns that actually aren't in support of where we're going, where we're headed. So if you can love yourself through that process, if you can allow yourself to sit in the discomfort more and more and more when you're going through the upgrade process, the up level, and you're in the void, you're in the dip, the quicker you're gonna get through it. The faster things are gonna evolve. But don't do it that way just to have it happen fast. Don't do it, oh, I'm just gonna surrender it's just so I can get it over with. You know, the more you resist, the bumpier the ride becomes. So the more you avoid being in this process, the more you abandon yourself in this process, the more you avoid or distract or numb yourself from being in the discomfort of letting go, of shedding, of purging, the bumpier the ride becomes. So this is a formula. You know, in a way, it's a formula to help you get through that, because you're always going to be going through it. You know, things may be amazing today, but you may experience this process tomorrow. And let me tell you, so I've been in like a 6-month, 7-month process of being in a death cycle, except it hasn't really quite looked like that. You know, I have been doing this work for almost 9 years, and I've gone through several iterations and evolutions. You know, the first 5 years of this work, I was doing it in person in Canada, and you know, it was a very different model. It looked very different. And then I had to go through a death process when I felt like my soul was saying, you need to go virtual with this work. And so I let go of doing all this in-person work. I had tons of clients at that time in a really successful business. I was burnt out. And that was one of the reasons why I also needed to go online and create a new business model. And that's what happened. I went online, I lost half my clients. I remember when I had closed up shop in Toronto, and this was in June, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And I basically went away. I went to Italy for a month after I closed up my shop and in-person work. And I literally was in grieving the entire time I was in Italy. And I was with family, and it was just the most inopportune time to go through this. And it was also the perfect time. I spent a lot of time crying and feeling so unsafe and so uncertain as to what was next. And I had a business coach at the time who also did a lot of really beautiful spiritual work with me. And I had his support when I was going through this, which was, I had to have it. I'm so grateful for it. And I just had no idea what was going to happen when I returned back to Canada after that month being away. I was so afraid, and all the deepest fears coming up for me just kept popping up to the surface over and over again. And I actually couldn't even allow myself to be in the death cycle and to trust, because I was still in this process of learning to really trust and surrender into this death. I actually didn't even know it was as much of a death process then. And then when I returned home, it was so interesting, because I'd experienced like 35 days of being in this like womb, this void. And I came out of it, and I actually ended up signing my first European client overseas. And he was paying a different rate, and it was a higher rate. And I was like, wow, it was the sign that the rebirth was starting to happen, that all this decision that was so hard, and that I lost a lot from it. I lost a lot of clients in this process. I was in this grieving and this purging process for 30, 35 days. And at the end of it, it was like a sign that I had made the right aligned choice and that a new beginning was happening. This next version of my life and myself was happening. And I've gone through various periods of that. And the latest one that I've been experiencing, which has been tremendously scary and vulnerable for me to share, even sharing this publicly, has been this evolution of my business as I've known it. So I've been working with a lot of women over the last several years, particularly entrepreneurs and coaches and healers and teachers, people who are in service-based industries, helping them to become more aligned to their soul, to their intuition, to their femininity, and to operate and create fulfilling businesses with greater impact and visibility from this place. And it's been working. I've done a great job at it. I'm very proud of myself. I stuck with it. I ran my Soul Aligned Success program for women 4 times back to back with 4 retreats in 2 countries. I did my Elite Evolutionary Women's Retreat in Sedona in June. And throughout all of this, I was supporting at a high level my clients privately as well. So I was busy back to back going through this, and my business was working, and I experienced a lot of success in that. Well, last year when I went to Mount Shasta, something was cracking open. Actually, when I moved to San Diego from Santa Monica last September, that was another death process for me. It was not quite as long. I found myself sitting in a lot of unknown and what felt like to me a lot of stagnancy, because sometimes in this process of surrender and in the death cycle, we're sitting in what feels like a lot of stagnancy and stuckness. It doesn't feel like anything's moving. And so I was sitting in this and, and kind of wondering, like, what's happening? Like, why doesn't it feel like a lot of creation is moving through me? Like, usually I don't have to really work for things anymore for it to kind of evolve, because I built my whole business and everything I teach on this method of having soul aligned success. And I just kept listening and waiting and knowing that it was not the time for me to create. It was a time to go inward. And so I went to Mount Shasta, California. I was in my mastermind group, and it was a retreat that we had as a group in Mount Shasta. And it was like another aspect of my consciousness and my awareness from when I was a little girl opened. And for those of you, you may or may not know this, since the time I was a little girl, I've been an intuitive, and I've also had a very strong connection to everything metaphysical, and also to extraterrestrial life forms. Sounds kind of out there and weird, and this is kind of the path that I'm getting to in sharing this story. I just had this deep connection and knowing to this these other realms and dimensions as a child. I didn't know that was what it was, but I just felt that connection, and I kind of let it go for years, and then got back into the spiritual work and healing work about 10, 11 years ago when I went through my second part of my awakening, which was extremely rapid and very deep, and I started to see auras, and I started to develop my clairvoyance and my clairs, the clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, and this connection to spirit, to God, to the divine. And I've been doing this work for many years, and my specialty in this is I know how to have a conversation with anybody, and I can connect to them in a way that may not lose them around the metaphysical speak or the new age spirituality or esoteric language. I have the ability to bring this guidance down to earth in a very practical way. And that's been what I've been on this path doing for years. So I went to Mount Shasta, and this whole galactic connection for me started to reformulate, and it was like my channel started to open a little bit more. My upper chakras started to open a little bit more, and the messages coming through were even clearer. And after I left Mount Shasta, there's a series of amazing experiences there. I experienced my coach, Mateo Ra, channeling, and I also experienced another woman channeling as well. And I left that experience a completely changed woman. And when I came home, all of a sudden there was an influx of creativity and ideas flowing through me. And what appeared to be stagnant now was moving full throttle. I got my entire blueprint for my business for 2017, because this is the end of 2016, in that moment. like several days after I returned home from Mount Shasta. I got a full year from all of the metrics. And this is to burst any bubbles for those of you who think that this is all bullshit, that spirituality isn't practical. In some ways, depending on who you're working with, it can be very impractical. It can be very ungrounded, just like anything in life. But here's to say, like, when you align to this part of yourself and when your channel is more open and you're able to receive that guidance, it is so fucking practical. You can get a lot of next steps. You can get a lot of clarity and understanding and practicality on what needs to happen next. And so I began to execute this new business plan, and I entered into the new year. It felt amazing. Like things were just flowing. I sold out my 4th round of my SaaS program, the Soul Aligned Success Sisterhood. I started planning this retreat, for Sedona that I just completed in June. And then I went into this Access Granted workshop that my coach created to help us learn how to channel and open up more of our field to receiving a galactic and higher guidance wisdom. And I had an experience there that has absolutely transformed my entire reality since, and my entire business since. And my channel blasted open on one of those workshop evenings to the point where I began to embody and go into trance when I channeled, not just channeling with my own self. This is a great example. This whole video, this whole masterclass has been me channeling, doing a transmission, but me not inviting another being to move through me. And so what's been happening is I've been able to open up my channel to begin to allow this higher wisdom to move through me, and also inviting the presence of this higher wisdom or higher being to move through me to be able to do these trance channeling experiences. And so this started to happen, and everything in my reality began to feel very chaotic and very difficult and very challenging. My physical body was having a very hard time holding the energy. My nervous system was getting fried, my circuits blown, so to speak. And things in my reality started to feel less and less aligned for me. And I'm not gonna go into the full process, but when I finished my retreat in Sedona, I had the clarity that it was time to go inward and to start letting go of everything that I've known in my mission and in my business, like really shedding the parts that are not true and that are not aligned. And it was incredible to see sometimes very bizarre and challenging experiences coming up for me as I've gone into this place of the void, as I've gone into the state of surrender, and letting go of a model, of letting go of what I've been doing the way I've been doing it, because I'm still doing similar work. It's not like it's completely gone. But letting go of something that I had known that was so true and was so successful and had been working for me. And then to go from that in a matter of such a short period of time into this place of like complete unknown, and at some points like no creation happening, everything feeling like it's at a standstill. It was scary at times, and I also welcomed it. I really did. And the void, as I said in a post, I think it was last week or the week before, has absolutely paid off for me, because what's been coming through are a lot of the visions I've had over the last several months of where I'm headed and what I'm doing and what I'm here to do next in my mission have become clearer and clearer and clearer. And they actually, like a puzzle piece, started to go like this when I started to surrender all of it, when I started to allow what wanted to come in and what wanted to leave to go out. And the less clinging I did, the more came in, the more it's been clear. And I'm not out of the clear yet. I don't feel like I'm entirely birthed and transformed. I still feel like there's elements. I'm going through my own process of allowing this next version of myself to come through, because it is scary. Now identifying with more of a channeler, and I say that loosely because, it's not who I am. And that could change in a few months, who knows? But I've been doing this work. I've been open to this divine work and this plan and my mission. But doing it in this way, allowing it to move through me, through what I now have created as Evenings with V, and changing up my business model to support this, has been really hard, because this is not something that I believe people may completely be gung-ho for. It's a little easier to identify as an intuitive success coach than it is to identify as a channeler and a guide. You know, not a lot of people know what that is. And this is kind of weird, and I can openly admit that. It's been strange. There's been a lot of stuff that's been happening that I haven't really ever experienced before, and I've also been surrendering to it because I trust that my soul is not going to lead me astray. And that's what's been stepping forward. So what is now revealed for me is doing these evenings with V, which are, 2.5 hour workshops where I come with a group in various parts. I've been told that I do need to travel for this. So if you're watching somewhere in the world and you believe that you have a tribe or a community that could really benefit from this, I, invite you to reach out to me. These evenings are where I will be doing a trans-channeling transmission, a portion of teaching and guidance, a clearing and potentially an extraction of energy and updating of people's consciousness and their energy field in this. And then the second part to these evenings will be actually helping you through all of the work that I've been doing over the last 9 years with clients and what I've been doing with my women, with my leaders, with my change makers, being able to practically implement the information and the transmission that's been received in a very grounded way, so that when you walk away from these evenings, you have an idea of how to implement or utilize this information that you've received. So it's not just this like esoteric, oh, that's a really nice message, now what do I do with that? Way of being able to blend the heaven with the earth energies and being able to go out into the world and really kick ass with what you're doing, because we need the technologies and the cutting edge of consciousness work to support us in where we're headed. So a lot of the stuff we've been doing is actually outmoded and outdated now. And this working with other beings from higher realms, along with our oversouls or higher selves, is what's going to actually help us to transition the planet forward a little bit more quickly. So I'm feeling an urgency that I need to get more of this work out there and be more open about it. And it may be polarizing, and I realize that there may be people who think this is complete bullshit and stupid and this is ridiculous and I'm a fraud or whatever it might be. And then there might be people, and I know that there are people out there who are like, fuck yes, I'm totally on that. Like, I just didn't think that there was anybody else in the world that had these thoughts, that could identify with these things. And that's the thing, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to step and be a leader in this, and leaders need to go first. So those of you who are watching and who've been watching this and are watching the replay, you are probably a leader. You are on this path, which means we've got to go first. We've got to step into that unknown and step into the things that are polarizing and fearful at times for other people. We've got to lead by example, and I'm willing to fucking do that. And that's why I said yes to being this ambassador to doing this channeling work. I said yes, even though it feels like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to my life, my business? What are people going to think? You think I don't have those thoughts? Of course I do. Hell yeah. But I'm still doing it anyway because I trust this. So I'm starting to do these evenings. My first one publicly is coming up here in Encinitas, California. So if you're in the San Diego area, it's August 19th. If you want info on it, just PM me. I'll send you the Eventbrite listing. And if you're living in Toronto, Canada, I have one coming up on September 2nd. And I'm feeling called, so I'm just going to put this out there, that there are other places in the United States and in North America and around the world that are open to having these evenings. So if you have a group of 10, 15, 20 plus or more that are open to doing these evenings, or you want to create a retreat or a one-day event around the precipice of creating technologies and higher levels of consciousness, supporting leaders and change makers and visionaries to get even more impeccably aligned and to receive the updated consciousness and vibration that you need to be able to facilitate and hold more energy and create greater impact in your work in the world, I want to hear from you. I feel like this is very important that I put this out to you, and whether it's received or not, I'm just going to trust the flow of what's coming through. And if you're interested in doing this individually, you prefer more of the anonymity and you want private work, I have half day and full day immersive experiences where we do a private channeling for you and energy transformational work for your system. And then in the second part of the work or the day, whether it's a half day or the full day, half day is 4 hours, full day is 8. What we're going to do is we're going to dive into the strategy and the plan, really integrating and implementing what you need to do forward from this time, from the channeling and from the guidance we're both receiving, to be able to go out into the world and really kick some ass, even more than you already are. Because No matter where you're at on the journey, it doesn't end. So even if you are somebody who considers yourself on a path of mastery, oh, I've done this work for years, it doesn't end. It doesn't end. We need the support. We need each other in this. We need to consistently be upgrading and aligning ourselves to the next version of who we are. And so that's my offering, my invitation, my gift to you. If you feel called to this, please reach out to me. I'm here. And if you feel called to potentially host me for an Evenings with V channeling and guidance, like, let me know. Over the next few months, I'm completely open to being able to figure that out with you so we can make this happen to get this work out there. That's all I'm interested in. I'm interested in helping people and serving people and getting this cutting edge work out into the world in a bigger way. So that is the evolution of how I got to this moment. And that's the transmission and masterclass around the up-leveling process. I'm going to look at some of the posts and the comments here for just a moment. If any of you have any questions or comments about anything that I've shared, it doesn't have to be about the Evenings with V or the private work. It can be about everything I transmitted before. Please comment below. It's been amazing having you guys here, and this is such an active live. So let me just go through here. Wow, lots of people joined. So awesome to have you here. These are so fun for me and such a beautiful way for me to connect with so many of you. Rushi, it was so great to have you here. Hi, Sabrina. Hey, sweet lady. Natalie, hi. Nice to see you here. Nice to have you here. Regina, thank you for joining. Billy, Chris, Kurt, Arlene, Nancy, thank you so much for being here. And Regina, thank you so much from joining from Tennessee. Tatiana, hey sister. Warren, Vieja Flor, I hope I said your name correctly. Thank you so much for joining. Regina, I hope I've answered your question if you're still here around aligning with your true calling. Indra Surtash, great that you could make it. And Steve and Lisa, thank you so much. Tatiana, you are going through the exact same experience. Not surprised. Natalie, yes, being still is a great option being in this process. Absolutely. Because the tendency is to get really focused on out here, right? Rather than going in here. So that's the error that we tend to make in the death process and the up-leveling process. We think that we need to keep taking action. No, it's going inward. Andrea, thank you for joining. Donna, Lynn, Maria, Mary Catherine, Nubia, Danny, Magda, Sarah, Agatha, thank you so much for being here. Yes, Magda, it would be so much easier if we could just like wish it into reality, right? Surrender to the unknown. Grace, thanks for being here. Let go and let be. Yeah. And that she's learning this daily. Brooke, so happy that you're here. Melissa, Viola. No, Grace, you're not going crazy. You weren't going crazy. And yes, Agatha, it's like a death and rebirth. Absolutely. Brooke, imaginal cells. Yes. I can always count on Brooke to always know the exact wording for these processes. She's so great. Thank you for saying it was beautifully said. Yeah, it's great. Mary Lou, Kayleen, Jenya, Sunil, so awesome. Jolene and Donovan. Jenya says, hello, igniting soul with contagious spirit. Yes. Jeffrey and Agnes V, Mary Ann, Frank J. Hey, Frank J, it's been a long time, brother, since we've connected. Robert says he's going through something similar. We've got Neil, Pedro, Rima who's joined. Thank you, Regina. Yeah, in sharing my vulnerability, I hope that it will cause vulnerability for others and to be authentic and just show up that way. Drew and Michelle, awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke, for saying that my channel is so beautiful and clear. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you, Natalie, for being so supportive. Regina says, your presence has changed into something very beautiful and vulnerable, something I needed to see and appreciate this side of you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this feels like such a sense of relief to share all of this because it's been sitting inside of me for a while and I've been really afraid to share it, to be quite frank with you. So I feel really grateful that my team, my spirit team as I call it, has been there guiding this because I felt really nervous sharing this. And I'm still going to feel a little bit nervous moving forward and how it may be received. So thank you. You're so welcome, Marilena. Nubia, kiss to you too. Natalie, you know what? We'll talk about the background of my courses and the things I have available. Reach out to me. I completely encourage you to private message me and we can talk about that. And that goes for anybody if you want to know more about my background or you have any questions. Keep posting in the replay. I'm here for you, and I'm here to serve you, so in whatever way that looks like. So thank you so much, guys, for being here, for listening. I hope that this was valuable and was helpful for you and gave you a little bit more of an idea of what the up-leveling process is. I'll be back soon, and have a beautiful week and day wherever you are in the world. Much love from beautiful sunny San Diego. Take care, everyone. Bye.